Hi everyone, today's lesson is going to be about relative age practice. So we will be practicing about how to find the relative age for different rock layers. So we learned about two principles already so far. Take a moment now to think about what principles have we taken so far. Right, I'm sure by now you kind of remembered what have we taken. So the first law is going to be law of superposition. Also take a moment to think what is it about and if you can define it for me. So law of superposition says or states that in horizontal sedimentary rock layers, which one would be the youngest, which one would be the oldest? So the oldest layer is always going to be where? Is always going to be at the bottom. So in horizontal sedimentary rock layers, the oldest layer is always going to be at the bottom. And as we go up in the layers get younger and younger until we reach the youngest. So another way, as we move down, the layers get older and older. Okay, so try and remember now what's the second principle or second law. It's law of cross-cutting or the cross-cutting principle. Take a moment to think, what does it mean? So it states that any feature that cuts across a sequence of rock layers is always going to be the it's always going to be the youngest layer. Okay, so it's going to be younger than the other layers or younger than everything it cuts through. So any feature that cuts across a sequence of rocks is younger than everything it cuts through. Okay, so now we're just gonna start practicing which is the youngest layer. So we need to use those two principles, which is the law of superposition and the cross-cutting principle. So now let's examine the layers. We have layer A, which colored in blue, layer C in yellow, B in brown, and we have layer D in orange. So take a moment to think, which one do you think is the youngest layer? Use both principles to decide. So let's use the first principle first. It says, according to the first principle, which is law of superposition, which one do you think is at the top? So which one is going to be the youngest? If I would examine this, I would say it might be probably C, but I have another layer, which is A and B. But it's like not quite clear to tell by the law of superposition because I have other layers that are cutting across other layers, which is A and B. They're cutting across. So let's try now and use the second principle. Okay, so let's look at B now. Is there any layer cutting layer B across? Yes, as you can see, we have layer A that cutting across layer B. So layer A in that case, since it's cutting across all other layers, layer A in this case is going to be the youngest layer. Okay, now let's examine a second example now. So we need to place in order from oldest to youngest. All right, so same thing again. To be able to determine the relative age, we're going to be comparing a certain layer to other layers. This is how we get the relative age. Okay, so I have layer C, it's the oldest because it's way down at the bottom. Then I have B, but why is it not D then? Why do you think so? Because D is cutting B across, so D in that case is gonna be younger than B. So I have B and then A and then D and then E. Why is it E? E is cutting everything across, so it's definitely the youngest. So let's examine another example now. We need to find out the relative age. So which is younger? Is it A or D? So this is A and this is D. So which one is cutting across the other layer? Is it A or D? So as you can see, A is the one cutting across D. So A is going to be the younger layer in that case. So take a moment to examine it. So it's A. Now question 2, which is older, M or D? Let's find M and D. So M and D, this is law of superposition. Which of these layer is at the bottom? Because according to law of superposition, layer at the bottom is going to be the older layer. So which one is at the bottom, D or M? M. So M is going to be older than D. Now question 3, which is younger, H or G? Which one is cutting across the other layer? Is it H or G? So again, the answer for this question is going to be H because it's cutting across G. Now, last question, K or N? So older is N because it's at the bottom. Okay, always try and use both principles to be able to answer those kind of questions. They're pretty much simple, but try and use both laws. Okay? Again, to be able to determine the relative age of a rock layer, which is comparing two layers. All right, so that's another example now. It's just an image for one of the mountains. How can I tell which one is the youngest? Look at this big intrusion in here. This is going to be the youngest layer because it's cutting across all other layers. It's just as simple as that. Whatever is cutting across all layers is going to be the youngest. Because again, it's cutting across all other layers in this mountain. Okay? Let's examine another example now. In here as well, it's the same. There are so many layers in this mountain. But then we have this one layer that I'm just coloring in yellow now, which is cutting across all other layers. So according to law of superposition, the one at the bottom is going to be the oldest. As I move up, they're going to get younger, but this layer in yellow is going to be the youngest layer. So again, use both laws, law of superposition and the cross-cutting principle. All right, I hope it's just making more sense to you now, because it's going to be your turn now to actually practice. So it's going to be your turn to try and test your knowledge. But always, always, always remember that you have to use both principles or both laws to determine their relative age. It's not the absolute age, because it's all about comparing two layers. So it's going to be the relative age of a certain rock layer. I hope this video will help you, and good luck, ladies. Bye.